Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's learning session. Thank you for taking the time to join us. For today's session, what we're going to be focusing on is how to integrate your roadmaps with your favorite software. Okay, our learning objectives today will be to create even more visibility into your team's work, how to understand Roadmunk's integration options and how they make your work easier, to perform the step-by-step integration process with specifically Jira, and create a boardroom-ready roadmap with Jira-specific views created. All right, so to answer our questions, we have our product experts, Cody Hawkrider, who is an onboarding specialist with Roadmunk, as well as Nira Adam, who is technical customer support with Roadmunk. Our presenters are myself, Cheryl Tessier. I am an onboarding specialist, as well as Bobby Nini, who is our senior product manager of our integrations with Roadmunk. All right, so the agenda for today. First, we're going to talk about the benefits of integrating with Roadmunk. Next, Bobby will talk about our newest integrations, being Asana, GitHub, GitLab, Shortcut, and Trello. I will be going into talk about our Microsoft Azure DevOps integration. And then I'll be bringing you through a demonstration on how to integrate your roadmaps with Jira. And after we wrap that up, there will be a live question and answer session. All right, so let's jump into this. So the benefits of integrating with Roadmunk. So when you are dealing with, say, Jira, Azure DevOps, GitHub, etc., you're putting all of your data into those applications and dealing with it there. Now with Roadmunk, you'll be able to take that data and deliver beautiful, visually appealing roadmaps and tell a story with all of that data that you have been collecting. That story, you'll be able to have highly customized visualizations with support for multiple views. So you'll be able to take that data and look at it in different ways. And you can custom tailor your roadmaps to specific audiences. And you can do this without duplicating data in multiple places. You can also aggregate data from multiple sources. So you can take multiple projects of Jira or multiple projects of ADO and combine them into a single portfolio roadmap, which will give a high-level picture of everything that's going on with your projects, issues, and tasks. And I'll be showing you in the demonstration how you can make a portfolio roadmap with different projects. So now I'm going to give it to Bobby, and he's going to talk about the new Roadmunk integrations.
Perfect. Thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate that. Good morning or good afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. My name is Bobby Nini, and I am a senior product manager with Tempo. And just to continue off of what Cheryl was talking about, while our integrations journey started with Atlassian's Jira, followed by Microsoft Azure DevOps, within the span of just a couple of months, we quickly expanded our offering of third-party integrations to support GitHub, GitLab, Asana, Trello, and Shortcut. Now, at Tempo, we want to enable our users to construct beautiful, fully customizable roadmap visualizations to convey plans, strategies, and even execution progress with minimal effort. And that means minimizing any manual effort necessary to input that underlying data on your roadmaps. Our Tempo road mapping solution is the perfect complement for these tools. All of these new integrations were purposefully designed to be as consistent as possible with our existing Jira and Microsoft Azure DevOps integrations, both in their setup and in their usage. That consistency in design and in user experience ensures that you can hit the ground running with any of our integrations. They're intuitive even for a first-time user, but if you've set up a Jira or Azure DevOps integration already, setting up an integration with tools like Asana or Shortcut will be a cinch, and you'll feel right at home. Each of these integrations features the same quick and seamless setup experience. In some cases, all an administrator needs to do is provide an internal name for the integration. That's it. So literally a matter of seconds that you can get these integrations set up. And all of these new integrations make it dead simple to import data from these third-party applications onto a roadmap so that you never have to do double data entry. You can synchronize item titles, descriptions, native out-of-the-box fields even. You can even go a step above that and map date fields from those applications to our own internal roadmap date field. Intuitive filtering capabilities allow you to control exactly which items are imported and synchronized on your roadmaps. And as with all of our integrations, you can choose to have the integration automatically run to ensure your roadmaps have the latest and greatest data, or you can opt to manually initiate data refreshes. You can even selectively update one or more issues on the roadmap instead of the entire roadmap, if you so desire. So lots of benefits with these newly released integrations. And with that, back to you, Cheryl.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Bobby. That was very, very informative, very interesting. Okay. So now that we know about the newer integrations, we're going to talk about Microsoft Azure DevOps. So we can definitely seamlessly data transfer between Roadmunk and Azure DevOps. You can take that data directly and integrate your roadmaps with your existing projects that you do have in Azure DevOps. So your teams can deliver from ADO to automate and elevate their existing road mapping process. Now, the setup of your Azure DevOps server and integrating your roadmaps with Azure is very similar to Jira. You have either a one-way or a two-way sync option. So when I do go through the Jira demo, it will be very similar to how you would do those steps within Microsoft Azure DevOps, okay? So that's going to bring us to Roadmunk for Jira. So with Roadmunk for Jira, you connect your high-level strategy with your day-to-day planning by syncing your data seamlessly between Roadmunk and Jira. So that gives us no more wasted time for double data entry. You could bring in your backlogs, your epic stories, bugs, whichever work item types you choose. You can bring those to life with beautiful roadmap visualizations, and that's possible together with Roadmunk and Jira. Within Roadmunk, we have two different types of visualizations. One is a swimlane, which is a more agile view, less date dependent, and the other is a timeline, which is very date dependent. And we'll be able to create crystal clear strategies for time and resource allocation, and as well for specific audiences that you may be speaking or presenting to. Okay, so Roadmunk for Jira is built for the way how you roadmap. So we do have two-way and one-way synchronizations depending on what type of package that you have. You begin with one-way, and then if you have a professional or enterprise package with Roadmunk, two-way sync is available for you as well. If you do have a two-way synchronization package, and for some reason you need to suspend that two-way sync temporarily, we do have that option available to an account administrator to do that. As well, if you do have a package that has the two-way sync, being professional or enterprise, and as an administration or as a corporation, you want to only have one-way sync available, we do have the option to enforce just a one-way synchronization. Okay, one-way synchronization, Jira is the source of truth. We do have a custom Jira query language, so custom JQL. So that's configuration that if you just want to pull over specific information from Jira rather than the whole project, you can use Jira query language. We have automatic date mapping. So if you do choose to map over the dates within Jira, we do have the date mapping available. Intelligent field mapping. So you've been spending all of your time filling in the specific fields within Jira and getting that data in there correctly. With our field mapping, you're able to take those Jira fields and integrate them into Roadmunk so that you can use those fields to pivot your roadmaps. And as well, support for Jira Cloud or Server. We do support Jira Cloud. We do also support Jira on-premise server. All right, so now we're going to jump into the demo. So I'm going to bring you into my Roadmunk account. Okay, here you see my main Roadmunk screen. First, we're going to talk about how you go and set up a Jira server to be using to integrate your roadmaps with. Okay, so this is done by an account administrator. On the lower left-hand side, you see your account settings, and you would go into your account settings here. Across the top is our tabs that are for our account administrators, one being integrations. When you pop into your integrations, you'll find add an integration, all right? So this is where you're going to choose that. This will give the availability to add all of the different type of integrations we have with Roadmunk, and we're going to choose Jira Software. All right, here you're going to put in your Jira server name, and then you're going to put in the server URL that you use either with your on-cloud server or your on-premise server. And then you create the integration, and that's going to create the handshake between Jira and Roadmunk, and then you're ready to go to start integrating roadmaps. Now, I want to bring your attention to these other features. This is where if you did need to temporarily suspend roadmap syncing, you can do that here and also go back and enable it at this setting. If your corporation does have a package that has both the one-way and two-way sync, but you only want a one-way sync, this is where you can force that. And as well, if your organization uses single sign-on with Jira, we do have OAuth support to help set up the server so that this will be able to be used with Roadmunk as well. Okay, so once you create the integration, this is a one-time setup that you'll have to do. You can set up multiple Jira servers within Roadmunk as well. So if you have more than one server to choose from, you would just create it with this integration as well. And then that will be available when setting up your roadmaps, okay? And close out the account settings. And now we're going to start creating a roadmap with your Jira projects. So you would do that by going add roadmap, and you just choose a new roadmap. Okay, you give it a name and create. All right, so here you see a shell of a roadmap. Two mandatory items you need on a roadmap are your items, which are your tasks, and the date that they're going to be happening. And this will be either a start to finish date, or it may be even a bucketed term date. Or with Jira, you don't even have to pull over dates. And I'll show you how that happens when we do set up the project. So you want to go to your integration center. So this is a setting for integrations. And when we pull down that menu, you choose the integration that you want to add to this roadmap. So we're going to set up the Jira integration. This brings you to a wizard. It walks you through it's step by step to get that project into this roadmap. All right, so we're going to go next. This will pop up with that server or servers that your account administrator has already set up for you, okay? If you don't see anything in this screen, that means the server hasn't yet been set up, and you'll have to reach out to your account administrator to do that. So you're going to choose the server that you want, okay, and next. And this is where you would add your credentials. Mine are already in here, so you will have to go add your credentials, okay? You're going to enter in the email that you use within Jira, and then an API token. You would create an API token by using this link, which will bring you to Atlassian, and just a couple steps, you'll be able to create that API token. You copy it and paste it in this field and choose add. This is basically your sign-in credentials, and you'll be ready to go. So I am going to choose my credentials and go next. And this is where you would choose your one-way or two-way sync, depending on the package. So one-way sync, that means that Jira is the source of truth. With a two-way sync, anything changed in Jira will reflect in Roadmunk, and anything changed in Roadmunk will reflect in Jira. If your plan does have a two-way sync, we recommend starting out with a one-way sync so that Jira is the source of truth. And then once you get used to changing information and seeing how it reflects within Roadmunk, then changing to two-way so you know that that information will reflect back into Jira when it's changed, okay? You'd set up your schedule that you want your synchronization to happen. So you can choose one of these and that will automatically happen every schedule. Or when you're working with a certain item on the roadmap, you can manually sync that during the time that you want to push that information back to Jira or vice versa. And I'll show you how you can do that in the demonstration. Okay, next is our filter issues. So this is where you're going to choose the project that you want to integrate with this roadmap. So you just type in the name and choose the project that you want. Now, each roadmap contains one project, okay? And once you do choose a project and save it, you can't change that project within the roadmap. Configuration mode, this is where you can choose the basic mode or Jira query language, JQL. You put in a custom query, and that will pull just specific information from the project rather than sync the whole project. All right, so we're going to choose the issue type, and you do that just by clicking on the issue types you want to pull over, and then the status of those issue types. Okay, import issue history. This is where you can choose to limit the amount of time you go back in history. This item count, I can see my project is pulling over 68 items. If that is in the thousands, that's where you might want to limit the import issue history back to 90 days, last year, etc. So you're not pulling over thousands and thousands and making your roadmap a little bit less manageable, okay? Next, this will always pop up. It's basically saying the same thing, that if you have thousands, you might have to wait a little bit longer for the information to sync. Okay, so dates and fields, this is where you can choose to map dates or not. So mapping dates, if you're using a timeline, which you are going to plot your tasks from beginning to end, that's where mapping dates is beneficial. You don't have to choose to map dates. Maybe you want a more agile roadmap, or maybe you want to fill the dates in yourself in Roadmunk. But here I am going to choose to map my start date to my due date. Then you can choose your epic progress. So that can be by issue count or story points, depending on what you use. Dates to display, these are read-only dates. So this is basically a resource for you, especially if you're not mapping dates. This is very handy. So at least you'll be able to see within Roadmunk what those dates are in Jira. Fields to sync, these are the fields that you've been filling out in Jira and adding all the data to. These are the fields that you'll be able to pull over into Jira, into Roadmunk to be able to use. So I'm going to choose this. This will look different on your screen, given whichever fields that you use within Jira. So I'm going to pick a few to pull over. Some are by default chosen already, okay? All right. Now, this is include item links or exclude item links. So those would be, you may refer to them as dependencies within Jira. You can pull those over into Roadmunk so that you can see them on your roadmap. All right, next, and we're ready to go. So you can see that Jira is syncing, okay, and we'll start to see all of the data populate within Roadmunk. So you can see how quickly all of that data came from Jira to Roadmunk, did not have to manually re-enter it into another application. It's there for us to work with, okay? So we see the items. These are going to be your epics, tasks, stories, bugs, etc. that you pulled over. You can see that we do have the external ID. So if you wanted to pop into Jira, you can just click on the external ID and it'll bring you right to that specific task or story, etc. All right. Now, when you're looking at the task, etc., that you pulled over, so this navigation update is a task. If I click into this, You can see that the description that was in Jira has pulled over as well as it has a linked item. So it has a dependency that has come over from Jira. Okay, along the top, these are the fields that you filled out within Jira. So now they're there available for us to be able to pivot your roadmaps. So this is where we're going to start making visualizations. So taking all of this data and making building a story with it by choosing our fields that we're going to organize the roadmaps with. So we do this by going Add View. Okay, like I said, we have two different visualizations, a swim lane being more agile and a timeline being date dependent. We're going to start out with timeline. And we're going to organize this by a work item type. And this is going to be all data. Okay, so recommend sticking to naming conventions because you can make many visualizations. Right away, I know that this is all data. It doesn't have a filter on it. It's going to give me all the information within this project. Okay, so here we can see all of our data has populated. It doesn't look like much right now, but we are going to make some sense of this. Across the top here, you see our timeline, which is in quarters right now. You can make that quarters, halves, or years just by clicking on the timeline itself. So the way that we format this is by going to the upper right-hand side to the formatting tool, and we're going to choose a header which will populate on the left. Okay, our headers are our Jira fields. So this is going to be organized by issue type. Okay, and you can leave it just with a header, or you can further break down that information by adding a subheader, which I'm going to do. And I'm going to pick assignee. So for all of those epics, tasks, stories, etc., now I can see them organized by the issue type, but I can also see who is assigned to those issue types. All right. There we go. All right, so now it's updated. Now, many times you can see these empty lines. That just means that these headers don't have data yet. So we're going to choose this option to hide the empty headers. That will clear up our view. All right, further, we can add more information. Maybe we want our progress by issue count to show up. And on the labels as well, I want to see the status that each of this task is in. So now I can see that customized intake process, it's in progress and it's at 50% progress, okay? All right, so back to formatting. Now that we have the layout completed in just a few clicks, we're going to add some color to this. So when you're using coloring, you can color by your pivot points, my pivot points being issue type or assignee, or you can color by another account field so that those specific tasks that you see on your roadmap are telling the story by the color, which I'm going to do. I'm going to pick to color by status. And you can color by one of our 6 templated color palettes, or you can color by a custom palette that you can create by going Add Palette. All right, so I'm going to choose citrus for this. Okay, so now when I click into my roadmap, I can see that all of my different work item types, or sorry, all my different tasks are a different color. They're telling the story. If I pull out my legend, I can tell what the colors are for. Green is backlog, yellow selected for development, orange in progress, etc. So it's telling my tasks are telling the story for me by the color that they are. Okay, so this is how quickly you can get all of your data and start having it organized by work item type, by who it's assigned to. So we're starting to make a story here. So this is one visualization. I'm going to take this and many times you're dealing with a leadership team and you want to make a different visualization. They don't want to see the tasks and the bugs. They just want to see a high level view of what you're working on and what progress it's in. So we're going to take this, we're going to put a filter on and make another visualization just looking at epics. So we do that by using our filter. We want to add a filter and we're going to filter by issue type. Then we're going to select only epics, okay? And we're going to update that filter. So now we're looking at a display which is only epics who it's assigned to. And what we're going to do is we're going to use these settings and duplicate this view. So this is going to be only epics for a leadership view. Okay, we're going to duplicate this. And now I have this visualization available to me just to click on when I want to look at that and I want to present that. This way, I don't have to take an all data view, apply a filter, remove the filter. I have that visualization ready for me already. And that's how quickly you can make it, okay? So this is a timeline view and what it would look like when working with your Jira project. Next, we're going to do a swim lane view so I can show you that. So we go add view. This one is going to be a swim lane. Okay, and this one, I'm going to make it more for a product management team. Okay, and so this is going to be status and the epic link. And this is for a product management team. Okay, and we're going to choose a swim lane and create. So in a swim lane, it always defaults to months and date across the top. Now you can see that that specific detailed timeline isn't there anymore. It doesn't belong on a swim lane. That belongs on timeline view. Okay, we use our formatting tool again. Across the top, we're going to choose one of our Jira fields, and here we want status. Okay, across the side is a row header. Again, we choose one of our fields, and this is going to be epic link. The epic link field will have the name of the epic that each of these stories, tasks, etc. belong to. We can add the item progress to the card, okay, that you see on the screen. So that's going to update the item progress. And then with the label suffix, we could add further information. So maybe we want to add the assignee, and that will show within the item card. And then coloring again, this one, I want to color it by status, okay? And we'll use the citrus palette. So here we have a good agile view for product managers to work together on the tasks that they're working on. We can see what epics all of these tasks belong to. If we do have a two-way sync, we can move around these tasks. Say this backlog item is moved to in progress. Just by dragging and dropping, I can move that to in progress. Now, given that I have moved it, that if with my sync is going to move it back to Jira and change it in Jira as well, if we have a two-way sync. Now, I set up a schedule of syncing every 12 hours. If I want to sync this change right now, I can choose my integration setting and I can go synchronize now. That's one way I can synchronize as I'm working. Another way is clicking into the card and going down to Jira and synchronize now. So now I can see that it's being pushed to Jira, and that will change my information in Jira without having to wait for that scheduled sync. All right. So now we've made this visualization for our product management team to be able to work on together. One more visualization I want to show you is again a swim lane. And many times you're working in sprints. So you want to just you want to visualize your project by sprints. So we're going to make a swim lane and we're going to organize this by sprints. Again, we go to our formatting tool and we're going to use the column header. One of my fields that I fill in within Jira is the sprint field. Okay, so I'm going to choose that. And then along the side, I want to see the status of those sprints. Okay, so here I'm just going to clear off the sprint none. Now I can see my sprints, the status that they are in, okay? And then I can update the colors of that again. And I'm going to just color by sprint. Okay, so quickly and easily, what we've done is we have created 4 different visualizations for different audiences or to focus on different information, such as if it's a sprint or if it's an all data. And this is how easily you can, one, pull all of your project over, and two, make visualizations that are tell a story and speak to specific audiences. All right, so I hope that was useful in showing you how you can do that with one project. Okay, now maybe you're working with Jira and you have more than one project and you want to show that all together. So what we can do is we can take source roadmaps that have one project and add them together to make a portfolio roadmap that takes two or more source roadmaps and adds them together into one large roadmap. I'm going to show you how you can do that. You go add roadmap, okay, and we're going to create a new portfolio. All right, and we give it a name. And you can choose whether you want a swimlane format or a timeline, and you create. All right, so this is where you can create your portfolio. It'll default on the right-hand side to all of the names of the roadmaps that you have. This is where you pick which ones you want in this portfolio. I want my classic project, and I also want my new gen project. These are the two projects I want to pull together. So I'm going to update the sources. Okay, so now you can see my new gen project and my classic project, two Jira projects in one. Okay, and then you can format. So we're going to format this, and for my header, I want to choose my issue types. Okay, and for my subheader, I'm going to choose the status of those issue types. All right, and just like our source roadmaps that we were dealing with, you can put your progress by issue count or by story points, and a label suffix as well that you can add to the labels. Okay, now one difference within a portfolio than a source roadmap is when you do color it, okay, you can choose what fields you want to color by, and one of them is you can choose the roadmap source. So now that we are adding two roadmaps in one, I want to color by the roadmap source so I can tell which roadmap each task is coming from. So when I pull out my legend, I can see the red is from my classic project and the green is from my new gen project. And looking at the screen, when they're all combined, I can tell which task has come from which Jira project. All right, so that is one definite handy thing with a portfolio. And when you're dealing with portfolios, you may be using it to collaborate with teams that do have the other projects, or maybe product managers have their own roadmap with specific projects, and you want to pull them all together. This is what a portfolio is great for. As well, you may be presenting this to your leadership team, and you want to be speaking about, okay, we are in Q3 going into Q4. What is going on right now? And we want to show this to our leadership team. So this is our today line. We have our Q3 and our Q4. You can apply a filter here again, and we want to get rid of those bugs and tasks. And we want to just show again what is in progress. Sorry, not what's in progress. We want to show issue types, get rid of that one. And again, we just want to show the epics on the first project and the epics on the second project. Update that filter. Okay, and now it shrinks down that information to be looking at just the epics, the status those epics are in, or sorry, the status of the tasks of those epics. So it shrinks down the data. So again, it gives you that high level view. You don't have to be looking at that information, depending on your audience, that they really don't need to see. They only want to see that high level. So this is where a portfolio really is, is really powerful when you're trying to tell a story, trying to speak to specific things to your audience. Now you can take off that filter again, and it will bring back all of your data. Okay, so that's how you can use a portfolio roadmap. All right, so that concludes our demo. And now we're going to open up the microphones so we can have a live question and answer session and be able to answer some of those questions that you may have.
Hi, Cheryl. So we got a few questions in the chat here. Our first one is, are there any limitations on including custom fields? What about scripted field setup and script runner or things like that?
Yeah, so all native Jira fields are supported, and that includes cascading select fields. Now, some plugins and some scripts that customers leverage that set up their own set of fields, those fields could be made visible on the roadmap as long as the authors or creators of those scripts and plugins are using standard field types that are native to Jira. If they're setting up a field type that is different from what is natively supported by Atlassian, then those fields are not visible to us because we rely on Atlassian's APIs in order to tell us what fields are available to be synced to the roadmap. So again, generally speaking, all native fields within Jira are supported. If the fields are set up by a plugin or a script, as long as they're using the native field constructs in Jira, those will also be supported.
That's great, Bobby. Thanks for sharing that. Do you have an ETA on when multiple views in a portfolio will be possible, like where we do in roadmaps?
I can tackle that one. No official date at the moment for multiple views, although you can work around that today currently by setting up multiple portfolios. But sounds like the customer asking the question here is interested in having the views encapsulated within a single portfolio. There's no current timeline associated with that enhancement.
All right. And then Cheryl, how do you generate an API token?
Okay, I can definitely answer that. How do you generate an API token? I'm actually going to bring you back into Roadmunk so I can show that. All right. So when you are creating a roadmap and you pull in, so this I'm just going to go Jira, and you pull in a project. I will show you how we get there. So you're going to set up your Jira integration. This is where you are going to choose your Jira server, and then you're going to add your credentials. And this is where you are asked for an API token. This link right here is going to take you to Atlassian. Okay, it'll take you to your Atlassian account. And this is where you're going to create an API token, choose a label. So we're going to go demo token and create. Okay, this is your API token right here. So you want to copy that, and then you're going to bring this back to Roadmunk and paste that here. Okay, and that's how you create a API token. It's very simple, just a couple steps by going to this link here. Okay.
That was great, Cheryl. We still got a few more questions. So are we able to add additional fields to integrated roadmaps, and what impact does it have?
So if I'm understanding that correctly, it means once a project has been integrated into a roadmap, can you add additional fields than only the ones that you've selected at first? And yes, you can. Okay, so I'm going to go to this roadmap that we were working with today. All right, now you can modify the setup after the project has been pulled over. You do that by going up into the integration setting, clicking here, and you go modify setup. All right, there are a few things that you can change at this point. You can change the sync schedule, you can change the synchronization. If you go into the dates and fields tab, you can't change the dates if you've mapped the dates already. If you haven't mapped the dates and then want to start date mapping, you can do that. But if you started with date mapping, that's not able to be changed. Now you can go down to the fields and you can pull over additional fields if you like. So if I wanted to bring the parent over and save, okay, and then you can see I'm synchronizing again. And once that's done synchronizing, I'll bring you to the all item view and show you how quickly it's updated. All right, so we go to all items and scroll along to the side. and here's my parent that I just pulled over. So you can change that easily just by going to the integration and choose modify setup, okay?
Perfect. And then here's another question that I think you could demonstrate here is there a way to sync Roadmunk and Jira off schedule instantaneously?
Okay, definitely. You are able to do that. So let's see. I'm going to go to this, what is this? This is I don't know if it's a task or this we're going to deal with. Right now, it's an epic, okay? So maybe actually, I'm going to choose navigation update. This is a task, okay? So navigation update, it's a task and it's in progress. It's assigned to Sanger. So let's go here into the card, okay? I can change the information right from the item card. So status, it was in progress, okay? Now it's done because it's been worked on, okay? Or if I wanted to reassign it to somebody else, I can do that at this point as well. So I've made those changes. I know, guess what? My next sync, it's not until 6 hours from now, but I want to push this back to Jira right away because I want to show that change that this is done now. And, you know, nobody has to be working on it. So I go down to the Jira option and I synchronize now. Okay. So this is going to be pushing this information back to Jira just on this specific item that I'm working on. Okay. So that has synced back to Jira. All right, so we're showing. All right, I'll deal with that in a minute. Another way, if you want to sync the whole project, you can synchronize now, and that'll sync the whole project back to Jira manually without having to wait for that synchronized setting.
Perfect. And what would you say are the benefits over Jira Advanced Roadmaps?
Yeah, sure. So there are a few advantages over significant advantages over Jira Advanced Roadmaps. One of the biggest that our customers actually tell us a lot about is the fact that with Jira Advanced Roadmaps, in order to plot things visually, your items require dates because they basically employ a timeline visualization. And so that's a huge issue for a lot of customers who oftentimes start off the planning process or the road mapping process without any concept of when things will land. So they don't have dates to begin with, yet they have a need to visually convey their roadmap and their plans and their strategy. So the benefit here in Roadmunk is that we have the swimlane visualization that Cheryl was showing earlier and talking about. That's very flexible, where you can have a roadmap with items that either have dates or don't have dates. So there's the flexibility on that front. Some additional enhancements on the road mapping, on the Roadmunk side of things. With our tempo road mapping solution, we have obviously the integrations with these other tools so that you can bring all of these roadmaps under your portfolio into a portfolio roadmap and consolidate and present to a single audience. And then another benefit too in Roadmunk is the ability to pivot multiple visualizations off of the same underlying data. So you can very easily target different audiences with different levels of information based on their needs without having to reproduce the data. And so the benefit there is same common underlying data, and you can have, for example, a very tactical view that you could present to your engineering teams, for example, and then have a much more strategic, higher level view based off of the same data, but just filtering or stripping information out that you could present to your executive team. So those are two of the very biggest, I think, differentiators from Jira Advanced Roadmaps.
That was very insightful, Bobby. We got a few more questions. So our next one is, for Azure DevOps, is there an end date field on features? Just thinking we would want to see features, but not user stories, but to see on a timeline, we'd need an end date or target date.
Yeah, so if I'm not mistaken, with Microsoft Azure DevOps, you have the ability to customize the fields that appear on different item types. So on features, you should be able to add a custom date field. And then all native Microsoft Azure field types are supported in our synchronization. So when you set up the roadmap and you want to pull in that item type, we would detect that there are date fields, and those would be available to either be mapped to our own date fields or to be pulled in as standalone date fields.
Perfect. And then is there two-way sync with Asana on a roadmap?
Not yet, but actually one of the purposes of these sorts of webinars is to actually hear directly from our customers. So at Tempo, we take a very customer-centric approach to prioritizing our own roadmap. And so one of the things that I like to actually engage in is discussions with customers, users, and prospects like yourselves to understand where you'd like to see the priority on enhancements. We've had a couple of requests for two-way syncing, but not many yet for Asana. So not officially on the roadmap. However, I'll register the question here, I think, as probably interest in having the two-way sync. And so I'll mark that down as something that potentially somebody on the call is interested in. But if you do have feedback or wish list for enhancements to the integration, including two-way sync, please feel free to relay those through the chat even right now. And I'll take that back, and as we consider the planning for Q4, determine if we should have those added to the roadmap.
Perfect. So I think that answers all of our questions.
So speaking of the roadmap and other links, we know that a lot has been covered during this session, and definitely maybe too much to absorb in 1 hour. So another thing that you can also do is using the slide deck, which will be included in the post-webinar email, is to look up some of the helpful links that we've got linked on this slide. One of those links is the roadmap. So if you can go ahead, thank you. And it has everything coming up on the roadmap. Of course, these are all tentative dates. Things change, get pushed back, or even pushed forward, but this will give you a really great idea of what's coming and many things to look forward to. And Cody, if you want to get back to some of the questions, we can definitely answer a couple more before we sign off.
Absolutely. So do we have enough time to do an Azure DevOps boards?
Sure, I can definitely show Azure DevOps. Okay, so it's definitely very similar to our Jira integration. You would start out on account settings, and you would add your Azure DevOps server. So integrations, once again, you add an integration, you would choose Azure DevOps. And again, you're putting in your server name and that URL for your Azure DevOps server. Create integration, and your server is available now. And that has to be done by an account administrator, okay? Now, when you go to your roadmaps and you want to create a roadmap, you go add roadmap, and you're going to create a new roadmap. Okay, and this is going to be an Azure demo. Okay, now you're going to create. Okay, now we go to our integration settings, and this time you're going to choose Set up Azure DevOps integration. And this looks very familiar from the Jira demo. It's a very similar wizard that would take you through your steps. This is the server that we just set up. You can choose your one-way or two-way sync, and you can choose your schedule. Next, this is again your credentials. With Azure, you use a personal access token, and again, a link that will bring you to Microsoft to create that personal access token. And then when you do add your credentials, you would add, this is optional, the credential label. So, I would just put Cheryl's server or something like that. And you would paste that personal access token in this field and then add. And that will create your credentials. So once that's done, you choose your credentials and go next. This is where you choose your project, okay? You can do basic or the work item query language, just like you could with Jira. Choose your work item types. So you would choose what you wanted to pull over. Here you can see my item count is going up as I do that. You can choose the state that you want, okay? And then you can choose your work item history if you wanted to limit that or not. All right, now this is where you can choose your mapping if you wanted to map dates or not. So this I'm going to leave blank to show you how you don't have to map dates, okay? You can do your progress to sync, so story points, item count, whatever you use. And then these dates to display, when you're not mapping dates, this is where dates to display can be very helpful because now I can put these as read-only because I didn't map my dates. So put these as read-only so I have them as a reference. And these are all of your Azure fields that you would be working with in Azure. So you choose which ones you want to pull over, okay? And some are defaulted already. So you just go through and choose which ones you want to pull over. And we go next. You can include or exclude linked items, and then let's go. Okay, so now you can see that all the data is updating. These are my work item types. We can see the progress, and we can see all of the information there. So then if we wanted to create a board, this one we did not pull over the dates, so it's very good for a swimlane view, okay? All right, and we're gonna do a swimlane view and create. All right, so for my column header, we're gonna choose one of our existing fields, so I can choose my work item type. Okay, and then I can choose an existing field for my row header, and I'm going to do created by. All right, so easily you can see, I'm just going to get rid of some of these that I don't need. You can see how we have sorted it through the work item types and who it's assigned to. All right. So that's how you can easily create a Azure DevOps board. It's very similar to the Jira setup that we went through. Okay, I hope that answers your question.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. So with that, we come to the end of today's webinar. Thank you everyone for sticking around to the end. Look forward to another session next month. Thank you.
Thank you.